All right, welcome everyone. Kevin LaRockie here with Binary Pro Strategies. This is going to be the weekly recap that ended on September 20th of 2019. Actually, a little bit above average this week for me. So overall, I had a really nice week, except for Monday morning session, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But before I even get into discussion, there's something I want to talk about that, as far as I'm aware of, nobody's ever really talked about this, and it's so important, and it has to do with the way that we approach these markets and the way that we look at markets. And the way I see it, there's two ways of looking at markets. When we're trying to design any kind of trading method, system, call it whatever you want to be, what I've seen a lot of people do, most people do, is they base their method based off the premise of what the market should do, and instead of what the market should not do. And there's a big difference, okay? So what would be a way of approaching the market as it should do? A should do would be somebody that uses an indicator, okay? And that's why I'm not a believer in indicators. I don't use indicators. I've never known of anybody that has used indicators and been successful over the long haul, simply for the very nature that they're optimizable, and that anything that is optimizable will not hold up historically. And this is something I'm going to be going in more depth in a follow-up video. I'm going to get a lot more into shoulds and what the market shouldn't do, okay, or what the market probably won't do or very seldom does, okay. So looking at a should, well, that would be something like somebody using, let's just say, a simple moving average. So they're looking at their 200-day moving average, or their 20-day moving average, or 14-day moving average, and a lot of people assume that because it goes below the moving average, it should continue to go long, it should continue to go down, or if the market goes up, it goes above the moving average, it should continue to go up. That is never going to allow you to be consistent in trading these markets, because the market really doesn't have to do anything. It's going to do whatever it wants to do, not what it should do. But what is true about the markets is we can talk about what the markets don't do, or very rarely do, if even 1% of the time they do. But it's so rare that that's the opportunities, those are the things we want to find in the market. What does the market not do? When you know what the market doesn't do, then you can design a strategy around that, because something's not going to happen. Got a pretty high probability that it's not going to happen. We can then design a high probability approach to what the market is probably not going to do, and we're going to do the opposite of what it's not going to do. So without getting this too confusing, let me give you an example. Now, this is a chart of, I think this is Sunday. Okay, these are the signals. Actually, what you're seeing here on this chart, and I'll go through some more charts here. I can't show you every single one of them because I've got 4 of these per day, 4 per night. I have a ton of charts that is available to our members to go back and look at these setups. But these are actual setups that occurred with the patterns that I look at. These are 2 specific patterns. The down arrows, I was looking for a buy. The up arrows, I'm looking for a buy. I'm sorry, up arrows looking for a buy, down arrows I'm looking for a short. And then whether it closed above or below my entry. So if I was selling here, in this case, obviously it was a win. In fact, this particular market on the Aussie, it was 100%. At night, you don't have as many trades. On average, I'm getting 4 to 5 trades per pair when I'm trading at night. Okay, and that's over a 2-hour period. Whereas during the day, I'm getting somewhere around 15 to 20 trades per pair. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is just the night session for Sunday night. But let me give you an example of what the market should not do. And maybe this will make a little bit more sense. Okay? Those that are familiar with chart patterns or candlesticks, there's something that we call an outside day. And I'm going to show you an example. Here's an example of an outside day. An outside day is when the following day takes out the high of today and the low takes out the low of the prior day. That is called an outside day, right? So in other words, it's, I guess they would call it engulfing. I'm not a candlestick guy. I don't know all the terms, but basically what it is, this is to me considered an outside day. In other words, it took out the prior day's high and it took out the prior day's low. So what's something that shouldn't happen? Okay, what shouldn't happen is that the following day shouldn't do the same thing. It shouldn't be taking out the high of tomorrow, and the following day should not be taking out the low of tomorrow. Okay, that just doesn't happen. Okay, because if it did, it would just keep growing and growing and growing. And when is the last time you've seen a chart like that? Never. Okay, so the point to be made here, and there's other things like that. There's a lot of different patterns in here that are based off of things that I know that the market is not going to do. Okay, and my method that I trade, particularly for the 5 minutes, is based around that premise. Because once I understand what the market is not going to do, then I'm going to know how to trade it. And every single one of my patterns is based on that premise. And the beauty of that is if we know that, and this is true, I don't care if you're trading futures. I've been trading for over probably 38 years now. I started off trading futures. And I know, I found this back in the late 80s, that this is true. This is always going to be the case. There's things that the market just doesn't do. Okay? And it doesn't matter what instrument. It doesn't have to be binaries. It can be in anything. And I've always approached it in that fashion, is designing the way I look and the way I trade these markets based on the premise of what it should not do. Okay, so knowing that, what I do is, once I understand what the market is not going to do, that allows me to do, obviously, a couple things. Number one, it gives me an indication of what direction I want to be trading in, right? So, you know, in a case like this outside day, right? You know, if it takes out a high, if it takes out this high, and let's say it takes it out early, okay, it takes out that high, probability is it's not going to take out that low down there, right? I can design a strategy around that. But it also gives me an indication of where I want to put a stop. So if it takes out that high, then I want to put a stop. Now, this is not a good example because it opened kind of in the middle. But had it opened up here someplace, I could design a strategy around the fact that it's not going to be taking out the high and the low of that day because it did it the prior day. Okay? So, I am going to be doing a follow-up video. I want to talk more about that. I'm going to give you more examples of things a lot of people use that are basically should-based instead of based on something the market should not do. Okay? That's how I'm able to get these consistently high probabilities. This is how I'm able to make money on a daily basis because it's based off of something that's true about the markets. And what I do and the way I trade builds a lot of confidence because you know that it's based off a truism of the market. Okay, so it's not something that's going to fall apart. It's not like an indicator that's going to need to be re-optimized down the road. As long as any market, as long as a Forex market is opened, my strategy will always work, period. Absolutely always work. It has to. The only way it wouldn't work is if they shut it down or you had one price every single day. And what good is that? Nobody's trading if you have one price every single day. So, anyway, let's get into looking at the week. Okay, so Sunday nights, you know, they're coming back. I mean, Sunday nights have always been my best night. And this Sunday definitely didn't disappoint me. We had some really good setups, high probabilities. You can see the Aussie had no losers. I think the Euro may have had one. It was hitting like at 80-some%. They were all doing very good. And you don't have to go in there and do any kind of size. Size is anything above 1. Don't have to do anything above 1. If you're hitting and you're winning, there's no reason to put more than one single contract on, because you're building a base. Okay? And that's something that I talk a lot about in the chat room, is the importance of building a base and then when to come in and put some size on. Now, if you want to have the kind of numbers that I have, you're not going to do this trading once. You have to be able to come in and do some size, okay? At some point, you have to do some size if you're trading all day. Now, my original strategy, which is still a very good strategy, was to come in and with an objective. And this is the way I suggest everybody trade, is when you approach the market on a daily basis, you come in with an objective, 50, 100, whatever it is. And once you hit that objective, you stop trading. I used to do it first thing in the morning, because one of the things you're going to notice if you've seen my videos and you come down here and you look at these first trade wins, what this means is I go back at the end of the day and I say, was my first trade of the day a winner or was it a loser? And you can see out of these 10 trading sessions, 90% of the days, I had one day where my very first trade was not a winner. What I used to do before I started this chat room is I would come in and on my first trade, I'd put some size on it. Okay, because I knew I had very high probabilities of making money. If for some reason I got stung, then I would go back and I would work on onesies to bring myself out of that loss. Okay, and then once I brought myself out of the loss, then I could start looking at size on some other contracts if for some reason I still haven't hit my objective. So, but that's another whole lesson. But and so Sunday night was a very good night. Now, Monday is a situation to where I probably was a little bit more aggressive than I should have been. Actually started off the day pretty quiet, and then I ended up putting on size on a one of the trades that just, it just didn't work out. I mean, there's nothing perfect. And when I put size on this particular trade, did not work. Okay, and I think I can't remember what I got it at, but it just didn't work. And so what I ended up having to do for the day is just going very light. I think I was down like maybe $800. And then I slowly started working my way back. And one thing I'm not going to do is get like crazy aggressive and say, oh, you know what? I've got to be up by the end of the day, because I know I have the night session, which is my favorite. I've got all the time in the world to make this back. I don't have to make this all back in one day. And that's the thing. If the markets aren't acting right and it's not starting to come back, then I just let it coast, and wherever it is, ends up. And so I regained, about $150, from my loss. And then that was it, knowing that I could come back that night or this week and make up for that loss. And I almost made up for it Monday night, because Monday night, once again, was a very good night. In fact, pretty much every night this week was a really good night, except Tuesday. Tuesday was quiet. It was still a good night, but it was just very quiet. Didn't have a whole lot of setups. But nonetheless, that's how I approach it. So if you look at the rest of the week, my best 2 days were Tuesday and Thursday. And let me tell you why. One of the things that I do is I teach people about EOM. It's extremely important. EOM is something that I developed that gives you an indication when you should be in the market, when you should not be out of the market. Now, if you come down here and you look at what I call my naked trading, what this is based on is that whenever I have a particular pattern that comes up and it says it should be a buy or it should be a sell, that means just taking the signal without any consideration of what the present EOM is, okay? And the win weights are extremely high, even without filtering that out, okay? What EOM does for me is called the ease of movement. It lets me know how efficiently the markets are moving. If I know the markets are moving efficiently, then it increases my probability when I put a trade on compared to when the market is going sideways or choppy. Okay, so if you used EOM, then obviously you would have higher probabilities. But if you just nakedly traded it, yep, it's a sell, I sell it. If it's a buy it. You can trade like that, and there's ways of doing that, and I teach you how to do that. The probabilities are still very high. Okay, so Tuesday night and Thursday night were my strongest. Now, the only difference between the rest of these nights and the days is that Thursday night is only reserved for the crystal ball. And I only trade the crystal ball method on Thursday nights, okay? For those that have studied and understand the crystal ball. And I mean, it was amazing. It was just hitting left and right, one after another after another. Everybody, and I mean literally everybody that was on that night reported that they were making, some great, fantastic gains that, they haven't seen in a while. It was just really strong. And that's the thing about the crystal ball. The crystal ball, when it's hot, then you trade it, and you trade it like it's hot. When it's not, then you may only have a few trades. But like a night like Thursday night, when everything just kind of lines up and the crystal ball's just really strong, then you definitely want to come in and take advantage of these opportunities, because that's when you're going to see a huge boost in your equity. Okay, so going back, let's take a look at our win rate one more time, or take a look at some of these charts over here for the week. You can see that, most of the time I hit pretty high on the evening sessions. Okay, I mean, even the morning sessions are not bad. There are two markets that are better than the rest, the Aussie US and the Euro US. I always recommend new students stick with these two, okay, if they're going to trade during the day, and even if they're going to trade during the night, okay? But this is accumulation for the whole week. Look at your Euro for the whole week on the evening sessions. 93%. I mean, if you can't make money, with a 93% winning ratio, just closing your eyes and pulling the trigger, you're not going to make money. I mean, that's just the way it is. Even at 70% is extremely good. But if you just stayed with your Aussie and your Euro, now of course these vary from time to time, even just staying with your Aussie and your Euro, I mean, even the morning and the evening sessions, over 80%. Once again, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, to say, hey, I know I can make money at this, because those rates are so high, okay? So anyway, this was a really good week. I'm expecting, there's a lot of news in the market right now. I'm expecting this to continue now as we start to move into October. So I wouldn't be surprised to start seeing some really fantastic weeks coming up here, because I love the movement. I love the volatility. I love the EOM. There's just a lot of really good things going on. Okay, so I showed you a chart for Sunday night. Let's go ahead and let's look at a chart for Monday morning. Okay, here we are. This is a chart for the morning session, just for the Aussie. There's 4 pairs that I trade, which I shared with you earlier. But this is just the Aussie for the morning session. Night session, I'm not showing right now. By the way, if you're interested in keeping up with these charts on a daily basis and my results, if you go to Instagram at Pro Strategies, and you join Instagram, I will send updates. I do send these nightly updates where I show, I break down everything. I show what the gains were, what the winning ratio was for the day, right? And I show a chart. I show the 4 charts for that session. So if you like to keep up with it a little bit more, go to Instagram and go ahead and get on that, and I'll go ahead and make sure that whenever there's an update, you're gonna be notified of that. Okay, and I send those out daily, Sunday night through Friday. So anyway, this is Aussie, day session only. You can see that, I mean, just once again, the Aussie is just super strong on its trade. This particular day, it only had 1, 2 losses. Yeah, 3 losses. Only had 3 losses. Now, just to give you a little bit of clue about this particular method, is that it's very rare for me to have 2 losses in a row. Okay, so when the market is extremely strong, EOM is high, very seldom do I have 2 losses. That's a very important factor when I trade, because under certain conditions, if I have a loss, there are certain conditions I know that I have an extremely high probability that the next trade is going to be a winner, and I'll look to put size on that. That's one way that I adjust size. So that's just a little tidbit there, but when you're trading my method, that's one of the things that I look for. when I do or want to add size, I'll wait for these. I'll wait for those right conditions, see if the prior trade was a loss, and then come in and maybe put 2 or maybe 3 at the most contracts on. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's see what Tuesday looks like. All right. So this is going to be Tuesday the 17th. And you can see, obviously, the yen is not one of the strongest. It's one of the ones that I do trade a little bit of. I definitely don't get too aggressive with the yen because it can be very choppy. That's just one of its personalities. And you can see on this particular day, even though overall I had a really nice Tuesday, that was my biggest day, by the way, on Tuesday. Well, no, Thursday night was my biggest. That was a $1,200 day. You can say even in the yen, I mean, it's not like every single one was hitting. But one of the things you notice is that when the market doesn't have very good EOM in it, you can have more than one loss in a row. Let me see here. Here's one we've had 2 losses. It's a single. Here's when you had like 3 losses in a row. There's a single. And I got back in the sink over here. So once again, that's important too, because if the market doesn't have good EOM, it's not, you can have more than a single loss in a row. But, you know, you kind of know that going into it when you look at the EOM. You either can trade it blindly, which you can do. You can still trade this by itself and do well with it if you know how to adjust your size properly. Okay? There are situations to where you want to add size, and there is direction. Direction is important. Whether you're buying or selling, I think is a lot more profitable than buying. There's reasons for that. So whenever I do any kind of size, it's going to be on the short side. Very rarely do I buy and put anything more than a single contract on. Okay, so that's typically what I do. But anyway, that's an example of the USN. That was for Tuesday, my biggest day, even though you look at this and say, well, because a majority of my profits were made in the Aussie and the Euro on that day. Okay? And I do very little of the pound. I don't trade the pound very much. But I'll show you a chart of the pound. So let's go and let's take a look at Wednesday's chart. Okay, this is Wednesday's chart. This is the pound. This is the one I don't trade a lot of, but still had the pound had a decent day. You can say a lot of wins here. There was a loss here. But then you came back with a nice win. Several wins, win. I don't know if that's a win or loss. I can't tell. For some reason, I printed over that. I can't remember if that was a win or loss. I'm not sure about that one. Then we come back for a win. Had a loss there. Came back with a real strong win. Another loss on the win. Once again, it goes, usually go from, if you do have a loss, any kind of decent EOM, you're going to start seeing that you're going to have single losses, but you're going to catch it. The next one's going to be a win. But this pound, this is the weakest of all of them. Like I said, I don't do a lot of pounds, but still, not a bad ratio, wins to losses. For this particular session, this was Wednesday morning, and it still ended up doing 463 for the day on that session alone. So not a bad day. Once again, most of my trading is going to be on the Euro and the Aussie US, and then from there it goes from the yen to the pound US. Okay, the US yen. All right, let's take a look. Got 2 more days here. Let's look at Thursday real quick so you can see what that looks like. We'll pull up a different pair here. All right, this is Thursday the 19th. This is my favorite, the Euro. You can see probably why it's my favorite. It just has so many wins. The ratios are so high on the Euro. I do a lot of Euro trading, just like I do a lot of Aussie trading. But you can see here, man, when the beauty of the Euro, very seldom I'm not going to see 2 losses in a row. Can it happen? Yes. Has it happened? Yes, but it's rare. Okay. So you can see just a lot of wins here, a ton of wins, just all day long, and that carried into Thursday. That carried into Thursday night. But Thursday night was all crystal ball, and the crystal ball, God, was just super hot on the Euro. So anyway, I love the Euro, but you can see that's an example of why I like the Euro so much. Just a good winning ratio. And these are naked. Once again, not even considering any kind of EOM in here whatsoever. That's just closing your eye, and every time you get a buy setup, you buy it, and a short setup, you sell it. Very high probabilities. And let's take a final look at Friday, and we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this thing up. Okay, here's Friday again. Here's Friday again on the Euro. Once again, just awesome, awesome, awesome. I am really surprised. These last few Fridays have been really good. I still am very cautious about Fridays. Fridays have been known to be the toughest days to trade, but recently they've been very strong. And what I do is if I start off and I'm taking several losses, I really back off on a Friday. That's really not the case. First trade in the Euro was a loss, but not across the board. I know I hit it on the Euro. My first trade was actually in a Euro, and it was profitable. But look at that. I mean, you have a loss, you didn't even win, loss, win. I mean, just once again, a great day for the Euro, a great day for the Aussie, even the Yen, all in the pound. I mean, the pound, I think, did like 93% overall. Even the pound was strong Friday. Very surprising because the pound typically is my weakest. So, anyway, these are examples of two of the setups that I trade a lot of. This is what I teach in the core strategy. I teach you these setups. There is a total of 5 patterns that I teach, not including the crystal ball. That's a separate package, but I do teach you these 5 different patterns. You're displaying 2 of them, the 2 that I trade the most of, but there's plenty more, plenty good setups. I don't have the stats on those, but I can tell you they're as strong as what you're seeing right here. So if you do decide to sign up for the core strategy, you will have videos that show you all these setups. They walk you through it. Also, part of that package means that you and I will spend 30 minutes to an hour going over it, making sure you understand everything. And then if you decide that you want to join the chat room, the live chat room, it's up to you. I recommend it because then you're going to watch me trade these. And I'm going to teach you some other things that are not in the video. I was going to teach a little bit about how these markets move and why I like the Euro over the Aussie, or why I want to take a particular trade, maybe go a little bit heavier, or why I don't want to go heavier. There's just a lot of little tidbits I'm going to teach you. So, and it also gives you screen time, and that is very important if you want to be a profitable trader. You're not going to be able to take any method, okay, and start making money tomorrow. It's not reality. I like to compare it to, I think I did last week, to a sports car. Okay, if you're used to driving a Chevy or a Ford, and you get behind the driver's seat of, say, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, the likelihood is you're probably going to crash it. So whose fault is that? I mean, the Lamborghini, they're very powerful cars, very strong cars. I mean, they're beautiful cars. But is it the fact of the car that you crashed it? Is that the problem? Or could it maybe be the driver? It's the same with trading. It's not the methods. You could give somebody the best method in the world, and it doesn't mean they're going to be able to make money with it because they're not going to take the time to learn how to drive it. Okay? So you got to think about trading that way. Nobody's going to give you a black box system and they say just blindly buy and sell and all of a sudden you're going to be making money. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to understand how it works, why it works. You're going to have to gain, most importantly, confidence. And that's what my program does, because when you see how this is set up and you see it work day in and day out and you understand the logic behind it, then you know and you can believe that it's going to hold up. It's not going to be something that's going to fall apart. A lot of people that are used to trading indicators, that's why they don't trust anything, because they're so used to seeing indicators not being reliable that they give up. Well, this is reliable. So spending screen time, spending time in front of it before you even think about going live, trading it in demo, believing in it is most important. Believing in it will allow you to pull the trigger and get yourself on a good start. So anyway, that's it. I'll be back next week for my next update. I do send out, I will be sending out a midweek recap. If you want to get these daily charts, I do send them out at the end of the day, end of the night, and I give you a recap of how I did for the day, the win ratio for the whole day, and I do that in Instagram, and it's you just go to Pro Strategies and go ahead and sign up, and you'll be getting those daily updates. So that's it. It's Sunday night. I'm getting ready to do some trading Sunday night. Love Sunday night. So wrap this up. And if you guys have any questions, comments, you can always leave them below. You can go to my website, get a hold of me that way. If you need to call me, there's a phone number there. You can always get a hold of me that way if you have specific questions about my program. And besides that, I wish everybody a great trading week, and we will be talking to you soon. Okay, so if you're interested in learning exactly how I do this, I do offer 2 different packages. And the way this is set up is that if you want to learn about the core strategy package, now that isn't going to include all the videos. You're going to get full access to all my training videos and educational material. You're going to get full disclosure of the core strategy, which I use a lot, particularly the single and double continuation patterns. The majority of all the results that you see on my daily returns is going to be based off of those 2 patterns, okay? I also do trade the delta pattern, and I also will show you how to use the nibble strategy. The nibble strategy is designed to catch very short-term trades, and I'll show you exactly how to use that in combination with some of the other core patterns. Also, how to transition from demo to a live account. This is very important. That video is also included. As you know, it's also available on YouTube for free. But how to transition from a demo to a live account is very important. Something you need to watch. Don't just jump in and start trading in a live account. You want to learn the strategy, and you want to make sure that you're profitable. I'd say at least 9 out of every 10 days. And then when you get ready to transition to a live account, please watch the video, because there's some really good steps on how to make that transition. Also, when you purchase the package, you're going to get a 1 hour of personal training with me. So you and I will do a one-on-one, and I'll make sure that you fully understand everything and how it works. Now, this package is designed to pretty much purchase and go if you'd wish. You can purchase, watch everything, and go out and trade on your own. Now, if you want to learn about the core strategy, plus the crystal ball, basically you're getting everything in here. You're getting the core strategy, but you're also going to get the you're going to learn the crystal ball method. That's something that's available. That's a video that is not available online. That's something you and I will once again sit down and go through and make sure you fully understand it. Now, if you decide that you want to go just with the core strategy and learn the crystal ball at some point, I'll just charge you the difference between the core strategy price and then the full price that includes the crystal ball. So I'll just charge you the difference between the 2. Okay, so these are designed to basically purchase, learn them, and then go and do your own trading and so forth. Now, if you wish to join me live as I trade live every day, which I highly suggest, because what I do is I also, not only do I share my charts, but I show you where I'm getting in, where I'm getting out, what strike, what price, why I'm doing it, what I'm seeing in the market. It's well worth it, and that's only going to be $50, okay? So if you want to, once again, if you just want to learn these on your own, you can purchase the package and move on. If you want to learn the package and then also join my live trading room, chat room, then that's just $50 a month, and that's $50 reoccurring as long as you want to stay. There's no time limit, so if you want to stay 2 months, 3 months, a year, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just $50 a month, okay? So if you're interested, you want to go to binaryprostrategies.com, and in there under Join Now, you're click on that little button. It'll pop up. You'll see this, and you can go ahead and purchase one of these 2 packages, and or if you're a reoccurring member, you can go ahead and join the monthly if you're not already part of the chat room. So any questions, as always, you can always get a hold of me by going to the website. My phone number's there, email address, and so forth. So if you like to do that, feel free to give me a call. I'll be glad to answer any of your questions before you make a decision. But everything I teach is fully disclosed. I'm not holding anything back. I am here to educate. I'm not a signal provider. That doesn't do you any good by me just giving you my signals. I'm here to teach you how I see the signals and I want you to learn them as well and be able to identify them as well as I do. And then, this way you are free to trade on your own. You don't need me around all the time. But for those that like to stay in the chat room and trade with us live every day, that's always an option as well. So that's it. Thanks once again for watching my video, and you'll have a great day.